worship assistant today. Our prayer chaplain is Olga Laluz. Our musicians are Danny Bauer and Felina Bunn. And our featured speaker today is our own Reverend Kurt Condra. And so now I invite you to take a moment to relax and become centered as we begin our service with opening prayer. Holy Presence, we know that in God we can never be separate from love, from truth, from infinite intelligence and the source of all good. We gather here in this sacred time to open our hearts and minds to the one power and one presence. We gratefully receive the energies of divine light and love pouring in and through us. And we affirm we are here this morning for a divine purpose. We trust that that purpose is now being fulfilled, for we know we are now in the presence of pure being, immersed in the Holy Spirit of life, love, and wisdom. And so it is. Amen. Now we have our opening song.
I used to think that I needed somebody, but all I needed was my connection with God. I used to think that I needed somebody, but all I needed was my connection with God. I was looking for someone, somebody to hold me, and I was so desperate. I reached out to many, cause then my heart was aching. I was so unhappy and thought that someone would make it all better. But one day I realized to seek first the kingdom, and all things and everything would be added to me. And I know, Spirit, is there somebody, and all and every day I feel with friendship, sweet love and kindness now all around me. I know that God loves me, cause I live in the fellowship of the kingdom. I saw the first kingdom. Oh, I used to think that I needed somebody. All I needed was my connection with God. I used to think that I needed somebody. All I needed was my connection with God. I was looking for fortune, searching hard for fame, cause I thought that money would ease my pain. Yes, I wanted a big car and a house by the ocean. I was getting nowhere, it was wasted emotion, till one day I realized, seek first the kingdom, all things and everything would be added to me. Yeah, now I know the Spirit is my supply, and God's abundance is larger than the sky. A life of service is now my mission, and all that I pray for is already given, cause I live in the fellowship of the kingdom. Yes, I used to think that I needed somebody, but all I needed was my connection with God. I used to think that I needed somebody, all I needed was my connection with God. Yes, I used to think that I needed somebody, all I needed was my connection with God. I used
Thank you. Your beautiful music helps us all connect to God. Thank you so much. Unity is a positive, practical approach for spiritual living based on the teachings of Jesus and the power of prayer. We believe there is truth and beauty in every spiritual tradition, and we honor the many paths to the one God. Wherever you are on your spiritual journey, you are always welcome here. Our purpose at Unity on the North Shore is to create a safe space where people are empowered to take risks and live their deepest truth. If this is your first Sunday with us, we are so glad you're here. Many of us were surprised to learn it was a spiritual community that thought and believed the same things we did. It felt like coming home. I invite everyone to stand now and join us in singing our group song.
I am so glad to be here today, aren't you? Oh, such beautiful music, singing, the message, because I always believe that singing is prayer, and of course, so is your music. Thank you so much. Woo. So I'm Olga LaLuz, your prayer chaplain for today. Know that I will be available at the back of the sanctuary if you need to pray, whatever you want to pray about, whether it be you're grateful or you just have something that you would like to express from your heart, something else, so I'll be there for you. And also if you're watching through the Zoom, you can enter your prayers in the chat box and they will be held in confidence, and we will pray for those as well, so thank you. So I'd like to start with the daily word. If you'd like to take a deep breath, relax, and please, as you hear these words, let them be yours as well. Today we focus on joy. I rejoice in life's simple pleasures. Life's biggest moments, weddings, births, graduations, celebrations of all kinds, are a cause for joy, but joy is also found in life's simpler moments, the day-to-day happenings that comprise daily life. That we are here is a form of joy. Joy is in the sunrise, in my morning prayer, in the familiar faces I love and look forward to seeing, in the satisfaction I get from work. It is in my favorite things and in the sweet surprises that come from trying something new and different. So joy is also in our favorite things and in the sweet surprises that come from trying something new and different. Joy is in the comfort I find in my favorite spiritual practices and in finding God anew as I deepen in spiritual insight. However it manifests, joy is part of me, a way to feel the peace and power of God in my heart and deep in my soul. And they ate and drank before the Lord on that day with great joy. Chronicles 29:22. So as we rest in this prayer, let us also go just a little deeper and focus on your own prayers. And let's take a moment as you do that. Hold in prayer your own requests. I am the presence of joy, flowing effortlessly through me. I am the lightness of spirit, alive with divine energy. In every moment, I choose joy, radiating peace and love. I am joy in expression, trusting the goodness of life. And so it is. Amen.
I am here for my God to reveal what was said in the beginning. I am here for my God to reveal what was said in the beginning. I was walking asleep, dreaming I was awake. This world confused me and led me astray. Yes, it led me astray. What could I be to please my mother? And what could I do to bring peace to my father? I was spinning around till I finally found that part of me that was always free. I am here for my God to reveal what was said in the beginning. Oh yes, I am here for my God to reveal what was said in the beginning. If you're walking asleep, pulled by the weight of this world, so turned around till it's hard to discern what is up or what is down. Stand still and be your own salvation. You are a child of God. You're the light of the world. You are God in the flesh. And as you awake, you must confess, I am here for my God to reveal what was said in the beginning. Oh, yes. I am here for my God to reveal what was said in the beginning. Go back to the beginning when you're alone and scared. Go back to the beginning when your old friends start to put you down. Go back to the beginning and everything in your life seems to be going wrong. Go back to the beginning. Oh, yes, I am here for my God to reveal what was said in the beginning. I am here for my God to reveal what was said in the beginning.
Thank you, Felina. Thank you, Danny. Trying to think what was said in the beginning. In the beginning was the Word. And the Word was God, and then there was light, and we are light. Ooh. So I'm starting a new series today, this being the first Sunday in October. And it's kind of inspired because I'm going back to Unity Village again next week. And one of the things that they're proudest of back at Unity World Headquarters is that they have really been building and investing in the archival material for New Thought stuff. The Unity stuff has always been there. Our co-founders, Charles and Fillmore, their libraries, their work, there's photos, there's all kinds of stuff from Unity. But over the past couple of years, they've acquired the Eric Butterworth archives material. They've recently, the Centers for New Thought, Spiritual Living, all their stuff has moved. So there's this archival space. And I thought, well, what a cool opportunity for us here to kind of dig into some classic Unity writers and Unity teachers and really look at like, okay, how's that working for us these days? So while I'm back there, I'm going to take advantage of that wonderful resource material and bring you back whatever it is I learn. But in the meantime, I'm starting with a book called Lessons in Truth. This is actually a compilation, so those of you who have read it may have a different version of it, but written by H. Emily Cady. And back in the days when, certainly when I was first involved in Unity, oh, there she is, H. Emily Cady. I have lots to say about her, but first I want to talk about the book. So when I was first involved in Unity, or first got, like the first class that was recommended we take was Lessons in Truth. These days there's another one called 5 Principles that is kind of more the primer for folks who are new to Unity. But Lessons in Truth for decades has kind of been the foundation upon which we would ask people invite people into a deeper understanding of the New Thought teachings. And it is just sort of this amazing roadmap to New Thought concepts, to Unity concepts that has had, I don't know how much exposure. It actually was never intended as a book, or it wasn't, at least the author didn't intend it as a book. Way back in the day, before the days of like YouTube videos and Zoom meetings and all the ways that we now teach and learn with classes, really print was the mode by which we shared the Unity teachings. And so Emily Cady was asked to, Myrtle Fillmore had read an article that had appeared that Emily Cady had written and loved it. And so she showed it to Charles, and Charles got in touch with Emily Cady and said, would you contribute to Unity Magazine? This is back in 1892. The first article that appeared was back in 1892. And it was so popular that they invited her to write a whole series that eventually became this book that was compiled into Lessons in Truth. So over the course of the last, that's like 120 years ago, the publishers of this compilation that I'm reading estimate that it has been studied by millions of people. Not necessarily, the book hasn't necessarily sold that many, although it's thousands and thousands. But these kind of books tend to get reread and passed along and shared. So they're suggesting that this teaching has been shared by millions of people over the course of the last 100 years. So the impact and the influence of her writing has really been immense. And this was back before Unity had churches. So it was, I think there was a great deal more receptivity among Christians of all ilk to sort of dig into these approaches to their biblical teachings. Now, because she was writing almost 120 years ago, the language is a little archaic, I think, for what we're accustomed to. I'm not recommending that you read it. I'm just sort of, if you were to pick this book up, know that there might be some, I had a teacher that called turning the tongue over to be able to really sort of dive into it. But that's exactly what I've done in this past week, is sort of dived right into some of those teachings, wrestled with the stuff that I found maybe didn't resonate with me, and welcomed some sort of new insights from teachings that were familiar. And so I'd invite you to kind of into that kind of, in the Daily Word I heard something about the joy that we can find and sort of introducing a new concept or being into, what was it, Olga? Something about a new, the joy of the heart. If you hear something new or in a new way, to just allow that to maybe bubble up. And then I'm also going to share with you what was the original intro that was written for the book, because I think it really helps to sort of set a tone. She says, in entering upon this course of instruction, each of you should, so far as possible, lay aside for the time being all previous theories and beliefs. By so doing, you will be saved the trouble of trying all the way through the course to put new wine into old wineskins. If there is anything as we proceed that you do not understand or agree with, just let it be passively in your mind until you have read the entire book. For many statements that would first arouse antagonism and discussion will be clear and easily accepted a little further on. I just think that's a beautiful way it's a beautiful way to kind of approach even stuff that we might feel resistance with, to have new ears to hear, perhaps. And it's also, I think, a beautiful kind of, metaphor about sort of the journey of unity. There is an incredible sort of evolution that has happened in terms of the teachings, not necessarily the foundational beliefs, but in how we articulate it and how we understand it and the ways in which we connect and communicate with it. And I think that's also really appropriate for each of us. Like, what I understood God to be when I was a kid or a teenager or a 20-year-old is very different from where I am now at 63. It's very different from where I was a week ago before I dived back into this. So the invitation is to really embrace the idea that our concept of God and self evolves, and to sort of be open to or curious about what is sort of my next growing edge, my next leading edge, so that my faith, my understanding of the divine, my capacity to embody it can actually grow and expand. So that's what I'm thinking will be our objective as we move through this series of really looking at some of our classic authors. Let's see. So a little bit more about Emily Cady herself. She was amazing. Before she was known as a metaphysician, she was a teacher, she was a mother, and she actually had decided to become a physician, a doctor, a homeopathic doctor. And so she had this amazing practice in a field that in the 1800s, can you imagine? Sort of women stepping into that kind of role and understanding. So she had gained a great reputation for that kind of stuff. She also was very private. In fact, when I was, the editions of this that I knew were always Emily Cady. She went by Emily Cady, but her real name was Harriet Emily Cady, and her family went by Harriet. Her practice went by Harriet. The sort of Emily Cady was almost a pseudonym by which she presented her metaphysical stuff. She was invited by Charles. She didn't sort of go seeking to become a publisher or a teacher. And after there was so much sort of acceptance and interest in what she was presenting in the Unity magazine, the Fillmores approached her a number of times about coming to teach at Unity Village. And in the course of that, she always declined. She kept a very low profile in terms of publicity. And that followed through to this day. This was a new photo. I'd not seen this one. Google, who knew? The one that most books publish have her, I was mentioning to Carl, she had, granny glasses. She looked almost like Granny from the Beverly Hillbillies, a little stouter. So this is a younger photo of her. There just weren't a lot of photos. And she wasn't a very visible presence, even in New Thought. Declined invitations to come and speak. Charles and Myrtle, who even working with her very closely over almost 2 decades, never met her until 1928, when they traveled to New York and were able to arrange a meeting. And that followed through. One of the authors of the compilation had gone back to see what kind of history he might be able to uncover back in New York, and it turns out there wasn't much, but he did find the tombstone where she and her family were buried, and he found a relative who met her there, a niece, who was able to talk with her about her aunt and what she was like and what it was like growing up with her. And she consented to have a photo taken next to the tombstone. And afterward, I don't know why I'm telling you this, other than it really emphasizes sort of the level of privacy that she really was intending. She wasn't out for fame or money in terms of the metaphysical teaching stuff. And the niece called back and said, in thinking about it and contemplating, she would really prefer that photograph not be published anywhere, because her aunt wouldn't, she felt her aunt really wouldn't have wanted the gravesite to become sort of a tourist attraction. She didn't say it in quite those terms, but so that the desire that she had for staying really sort of low-key and under the radar, I think was really amazing. And the power of her writing was incredible too. So let's talk about some of the major themes, at least that I gleaned this time through. One of those is kind of the same thing that we just heard Felina talk about, really recognizing and remembering that we are God, that we are, she wouldn't have used probably that. She would have probably said we are spirit, is maybe as far as she would go to declare that I'll talk more about that in a second, to declare that level of identity. But the idea, and this is what I think was probably radically different for most, is that it really shifts from the begging and the beseeching and the asking for an entity outside of us to sort of fulfill the desires of our heart, or asking to be saved. It really moves it into a deeper level of responsibility and identifying as that Christ presence for ourselves. That's a huge theme throughout. And over and over and over again, she will remind us that God is in you. God is in you. So that's one of the major themes that I was. And the other that she seems to really spend a good deal of time and attention on is making a distinction between personality, these are her terms, personality and individuality. Personality being kind of, the human self of us. We would say probably these days more the egoic self of us, right? That part of us that is attached to worldly material experience and is caught up in that. That's sort of the personality. And her coaching was always to identify with our individuality, which is, she would describe as sort of that Christ presence, with that God self, with the divine, the spirit of us, and to be able to stand in that as our identity in every interaction throughout our lives. That's one of the things this week that I've really been playing with a lot is, I guess over the years I've kind of fallen into a pattern of, I do my morning meditation and then just kind of figure, okay, I've had my time with the divine, and just kind of there's an assumption that God's I got it now, that okay, Spirit's going to be moving through me because I've done this meditation in the morning, I'm grounded, I can just trust that whatever comes up is going to. She's very clear that this is ongoing, like everything, every decision, every choice throughout the day is like reconnecting with that sense of the divine, reaffirming that we are indeed moving in a field of divine. She wouldn't have said field, that's more of a modern piece, but just sort of reconnecting so that every choice, every decision, there's another like check-in, there's another quick prayer or affirmation, really putting God first in every dimension and every aspect of our lives and of our living. So I've been playing with that a little bit. The other one that, I'd also gotten to a point I'm like, okay, 20 minutes meditation morning, I'm doing good, that's good. She's very clear that it takes an hour. Spend an hour every day on top of the other stuff. So I didn't make it to an hour, but I did double my meditation time this week and have noticed a significant difference in my receptivity to sort of, and my even being able to remember to check in and reconnect when there's a choice that I'm facing or something that's coming up, or to give thanks and be more grateful. It really has kind of expanded the portal through which I'm allowing the divine to express as me. So I would invite you to sort of look at your own practice and maybe this week consider, can you double it up in terms of what you're doing prayerfully and meditation-wise? I did watch a lot less TV this week than I normally do. And my coffee table, usually there's a couple of books that I'm working on, but it is stacked now. I'm grabbing books all over the place. So that just know that, I have found a great value in being able to sort of reintegrate a deeper capacity for prayer and meditation this last week. And it can't hurt, right? So give it a shot. Let's see. New wineskins. I think next we'll move into kind of in terms of like the evolution that we sort of observe, not just only in Emily Cady's works, but in terms of the Unity movement. Keep in mind that when Emily Cady was writing, that was like the beginning and the pinnacle of the industrial age, right? It was all about mechanistic and industrialization and building factories and burning fossil fuels, and like that was the science. It was just the beginning of sort of atomic sciences. So a lot of the language and examples and metaphors she's using arise out of that. There's this very clear kind of distinction about, if there's a problem, you can go in and you find the faulty part and you fix it. We know these days that there's a lot more to kind of revealing or embodying wholeness, that there are ways in which things are connected and integral that aren't just about sort of fixing that one thing. And that gets reflected kind of in some of the affirmations and the denials that she uses, that we have a different understanding these days as we move into, and I'm no expert by any means, but as we move into quantum science, like there are ways in which we know the nature of matter is very different than what we thought it was at the beginning of the 20th century. So language changes, metaphor changes, our capacity to understand how integrated different systems are is very different, and it does have an impact on what we believe about ourselves and of God. In terms of teachings, evolution in teachings, one of the things that I noticed that is kind of different and has sort of swung both ways is this notion called chemicalization. I think Reverend Jeff talked about this a few weeks ago, so I'll just touch on it briefly. But Emily Cady was very clear that once you start, pouring new wine into old wineskins, that there's a processing that happens. And often what will happen is when we get a new insight, we realize that it is an abundant universe, and we start to claim sort of the gifts and the blessings of God. Like there's a level of excitement and even of demonstration that happens. It starts to all happen. But at some point, all the old beliefs about lack and limitation and illness or sickness, all those are going to start to kind of bubble up. And it's not uncommon as we deepen our experience of this work, of these practices, to experience just the opposite, like things get worse before they get better. I've noticed this in 12-step work, right? I just found out about this not too long ago. There's a sort of phenomenon that 12-step groups talk about called the pink cloud. Like when you first stop drinking, there's like this level of euphoria. Maybe you sleep better than you have in a while, and there's a level of excitement that kind of happens that bolsters it. But very quickly after that, or often what follows after that, is that as the body starts to really detox from the effects of alcohol, as it tries to recalibrate whatever it's doing with our hormones and serotonin and all the stuff it's trying to balance, that it gets pretty bad before it gets better. There's a spiritual dimension that what Katie says that happens at that level too, called chemicalization. That stuff sort of gets worse as we sort of reintegrate that higher level, that higher vibrational understanding into our new belief system. And so it's interesting. Unity at one point, the publisher decided we're not going to tell people about that phenomena, because if they know about it, if they, they're going to start to expect it, and then that'll become an intention, and then they're going to experience it no matter what. So we just won't tell them. So they left chemicalization out of the teachings for a couple of decades. I noticed in this version it's back. So I think it's helpful as you start to embody, because the other thing about chemicalization is I thought when I went through ministerial school, I had a really deep experience of it, because they pretty much break down everything you thought you believed about self and God. That was sort of the intention, and then we rebuild it. And so I went through a pretty dark night of the soul during ministerial school. And I think I've kind of moved on since then, thinking, okay, I've done that chemicalization thing. What I'm realizing now is that every time there's a deeper understanding of the truth of my being, there's still some old stuff that's going to come bubbling up to get released, and I might not feel great while that's happening. It might not be this joyful, marvelous kind of experience of the divine that I would like it to be. So that's sort of an evolution of how we have understanding and out of them. One of the other pieces, and this is one that I still kind of struggle with, is the teaching around denials. Psychologically, denial has taken on a completely different meaning than back in the 1890s, right? That it was introduced as really a form of prayer, and this form of prayer that was described in New Thought about denying is really making sure that we're not sort of buying into the power of an outer condition to affect our choices or our attitudes or outcomes, that we're denying it has power over us, that a condition has power over us. More commonly now we think of denial as a psychological term about like, okay, denial is a river and you jump down on it's not happening as long as if I don't speak it or think about it or see it, then it's not happening. Like that level of denial that we know ultimately becomes more corrosive than helpful. We know that if we don't deal with that stuff that sort of bubbles up, that it ends up coming out sideways. So there's a kind of different approach to that. And I want to share with you sort of how Emily suggests dealing with it, and to maybe suggest that to a degree she's right. Yes, there is an important component to emotional healing where we have to kind of deal with the feelings and the patterns of our past. And I think it also can be pretty easy to get way stuck and mired in those. So there might be some middle ground to be had. So here's how she describes like using denials. She said, almost hourly, little vexations and fears come up in your life. Meet each one with a denial. Calmly and coolly say within yourself, that's nothing at all. It cannot harm or disturb me or make me unhappy. If you are angry, stand still and silently deny it. Say that you are not angry, that you are love made manifest and cannot be angry, and the anger will leave you. Yeah. I'm like, well, perhaps. And I think there are times when it is enough. If somebody cuts me off in traffic, that's a pretty easy thing to like be angry about and to remind myself of who I truly am and let it go. And there's other stuff that's going to take a little bit more processing, maybe even therapy. And some sort of, and some spiritual treatment and some prayer treatment. So in terms of denials, I'm not sure it's quite as simple as was described in sort of early unity teachings and days. I think there are ways in which that actually perpetuated some really unfortunate behaviors and circumstances and outcomes even within the unity movement. That we're continuing to heal. We're continuing to know sort of the truth of unity as a source of light and love, and to be that for all. That we evolve not only in terms of our understanding and the context of our technological advancements, but also in the teachings that we hold and the ways in which we begin to practice them. Let's see. So why even keep on with Emily? Isn't it time that we sort of rewrite that and begin again? And one of the advantages, or one of the beautiful kind of experiences that I've had in reviewing her works this last week, is that as you sort of read through it, what I come to understand is that she was living this stuff. There's a sincerity and an authenticity about what she is conveying that actually supports me in sort of my own growth and becoming. There's a beautiful story about, I mentioned before that she was pretty humble in terms of the work that she was doing around this healing stuff. But one of the truths that she would really delved into very deeply was the idea of prosperity and abundance, that we are children of God, every need is met. So she, in her medical practice, just decided that she would not charge fees anymore. She would trust that the Lord would provide whatever needs might be met for her. And she didn't tell anybody about it. She just kind of set the intention. And this is kind of a long passage, but I really liked it, so I'm going to share the whole passage with you. For more than 2 years, Dr. Katie persisted in proving this idea of God as supply, never letting anyone know that she was trying to prove it. But alas, it did not work out. More than once, she did not even have enough money for the bare necessities of life and was faint for want of food. But with supreme fortitude, she kept on, cheerfully teaching all who came to hear her that God would supply all their needs. See, this is a place I might have thought, maybe the denial thing could have been mitigated a little. But she had her own way of moving through it. And then, after 2 years of this, she reached her limit. Hope deferred makes the heart sick. She's quoting Proverbs there. Flesh and blood and human self could endure no more. Like many another before and since, she cried out to God, Why this failure? You told me in the vision that I would give up my old way and trust to you alone. You would prove to me your sufficiency. Why have you failed me? Like, have you been there? There's when the prayer stuff doesn't work. And she says, what was God's answer? Only a verse of scripture came into her mind. Then God said, let there be light. And there was light. At first, she could not see any relevance in this, but she kept on repeating these words, hoping to see the meaning in them. And as she repeated them, there seemed to be an increasing tendency to trust the word said. Suddenly, it dawned upon her that never once in all those 2 trying years had she said or spoken the word for supply. So she began to affirm it. I would suggest that maybe she began even inviting people to support her in her work without setting a particular, there are ways in which that was provided. And ever after, once she was able to sort of speak the word rather than just sort of silently hold it within, brought power to that affirmation. What I find inspiring about that is I've been through those sorts of struggles myself. I've been through those spaces where it wasn't sort of an instantaneous kind of, and now I'm fully embodied and my ability of the Christ presence to express through me is health or wholeness or whatever it is. She has wrestled through this herself, and that comes through in her writing in a way that actually I find inspiring and gives me strength. So I want to do something a little bit different for our meditation today. One of the evolutionary developments that we're seeing within sort of the Unity movement and the way that we language things, and actually here at Unity on the North Shore within our prayer chaplain team, is this language of oneness is kind of how we term it. Like, yes, we know, we believe that we are one with God, For many years, though, we've ascribed that to being children of God, or there are ways in which even the language that we hold when we say "dear God," like there's a presumption or a kind of grammatical distinction that implies separation, right? If I say "dear God," I'm addressing an entity that is not necessarily part of who I am. So there's been work done within the Unity movement on how do we really move into language that more definitively kind of expresses that oneness. And it can be challenging. It can be a little tough to sort of adopt that. Let me give you an example, because this has come up a few times. You know, our prayer protection, the light of God surrounds us, the love of God enfolds us, the power of God protects us. That for many years is the structure that we use for it. And it's got a wonderful kind of poetic flow to it that we take great comfort in. Oneness language is demonstrated in the version that we've been using the last couple of years. The light of God surrounds us, I am light. The difference is subtle, and yet if I think we're open to it, if we can sort of be with the shift in that, there's a proclamation that's even more powerful. I am light suggests that this is mine to express, rather than something that I'm just a part of, that I actually have the power and authority to be the light and expression of God. And what I'm sort of taking out of this, diving into the old classic Unity teachings, is that there's value in both. There may be times in which the comfort of being enfolded is really helpful because my heart is hurting. And there may be times where I'm just needing to declare it and know that I am one with the source where that's happening, and be able to state that, to speak the word. So what I'm going to suggest I've taken 4 affirmations that Emily Katie writes out for us with sort of traditional Unity language. And then on the back side, we've interpreted through ChatGPT, and our dear chaplain, Martin here, helped me with some of the languaging too this morning. And what we're going to do is move through each of these. We'll read once from the classic. I'm going to invite you to flip it over, and then once from the classic, I'm going to invite you to sort of rest in it and feel it. We'll flip it over and read the second affirmation that's out of the oneness language. And just invite you to see where you land. Is it comfortable? Are either of these right? Or maybe there's something in between, more words that would resonate with me. Because as Emily is very clear about from early on, our belief in God, our embodiment of God, our prayers need to really come from within our own consciousness. We need to establish them in our own consciousness. And so I love this capacity that we have to learn and grow in terms of our awareness. So as Danny prepares us for a time of meditation, I'm going to just pass out a couple of these. Oops. And I want to apologize to the folks online. I didn't think of this till this morning, or I would have definitely put them on slides. So if you can just sort of hang with us verbally. But I think you can maybe get the gist of the same process. You can still sort of feel the difference between the two and rest in the truth.
Between me and my God, no separation, no distance at all. God is right here in my heart. God is right here in my heart. God is right here in my heart. I'm raising the veil between me and my God. No separation, no distance at all. God is right here in my heart.
So as we step into a deeper awareness of God in our hearts, I invite you to turn your card to the classic unity side, the side with the wings. We'll speak together the first affirmation and then rest in just a moment of quiet. Let it sort of bubble up and resonate, see how it feels. Together, God is life, love, intelligence, substance, omnipotence, omnipresence. Now I invite you to flip the card over and we'll read the first affirmation on the oneness side together. I am the essence of life, love, intelligence, substance, omnipotence, omniscience, and omnipresence. Now, if you would, flip the card over and we'll speak from the classic version, the second affirmation together. I am a child or manifestation of God, and every moment His love, wisdom, power flow into and through me. I am one with God, and I am governed by His law. Breathe in, see how that lands. Now let's flip the card over. And together we'll speak the oneness version of affirmation 2. I am one with presence, and in every moment the fullness of life, love, wisdom, and power flows in and through me. I am divine and guided by the eternal law of spirit. And now back to the classic version. Together we'll speak the third affirmation. I am spirit, perfect, holy, harmonious. Nothing can hurt me or make me sick or afraid, for spirit is God, and God cannot be sick or hurt or afraid. I manifest my real self through this body now. And now the oneness version on the other side. Affirmation 3. I am spirit, whole, perfect, and harmonious. Nothing can harm, sicken, or cause fear in me. I am free from illness, injury, and fear. In this moment, I express my divine true self through this body. And now to the classic side, our last affirmation together. God works in me to will and to do whatever He wishes me to do, and He cannot fail. And the oneness version of that fourth affirmation now together. God is divine will and purpose. Therefore, I am divine will and purpose. I can express it in reality. I cannot fail. And now breathe in. And just know and trust that words of truth spoken from the heart are true regardless. And know that as we move forward out into this next week, eager to deepen our experience of the divine, either to grow our understanding of our oneness with God, that we have many tools, and there is much language, many ways in which we can express that. The right one is the one that resonates most clearly through my soul. So it is, and so we let it be. Amen.
I want to know you, oh God.
I'm raising the veil.
I want to see you,
Oh
God.
I'm raising the veil.
I want to hear you, oh God. I'm raising the veil. I want to feel you, oh God. I'm raising the veil. I want to praise you, oh God. I'm raising the veil. I want to love you, oh God. I'm raising the veil between.
So this is the time in our service when we receive our tithes and our offerings. And normally I'd do a little quick mini prosperity lesson, but I wanted Danny to share a little bit about his experience last weekend in North Carolina, because he used that as sort of a beautiful opportunity to sort of be a channel through which abundance pours. You mind?
Yeah.
I know we talked about it briefly, but I hadn't told you when.
Yeah. Yeah.
Surprise, yeah.
Yeah, so I obviously wasn't here last Sunday, and that's because I was down in Asheville recording an album with this new band I just joined. So we were there. The plan was to be there last Sunday through Friday and drive back here on Friday, but because of the storms and the hurricane, we ended up getting stranded in Asheville. And what ended up happening was a really beautiful thing. So we were at on Friday, we tried to leave. All the roads were blocked off from water and flooding. We saw like entire towns underwater. So we had to come back, and we just sat at our manager's house and kind of waited. But on Saturday, our manager owns Asheville Music Hall. And for whatever reason, I guess blessings from God, Asheville Music Hall had power. So we all hopped in some cars and we drove down there and opened up the kitchen, set up the bar, set up the whole room, and fired things up, and opened up the venue at around noon or 12:30 and had a line of hundreds of people out the door. While the band, we got to play music and serve pizza and burgers and fries and water and beers to people in Asheville. And it was really powerful to be part of in a time of like real crisis like that, which I had never been in that was the first time in my life I've ever been in a true crisis. Being on the side that had the resources and had the opportunity to help, and just seeing how can we help, and watching people come in and just be so grateful to even wait in line for 2 slices of pizza. And we set up the stage, we played music. There was a group there that their wedding was that weekend, and because of the hurricane, the venue canceled on them, so they did their wedding in the Airbnb, and then they came on down and got pizza and stuff. And I actually hopped up on the piano and I played and sang all the wedding songs, all the popular dancing wedding songs I knew. And these bridesmaids and this bride came up to me and they said, "Thank you so much for giving us a chance to feel something normal in the middle of this chaos." And it was really powerful for me just to, I guess, see how everything can be taken away in an instant. and how it doesn't matter how good your plan is, like God can have another plan, and you've just got to be a part of it. And just to see how when everything got taken away, everybody, the shared humanity was much stronger, and just being able to say, wow, I have the chance to help, we have the chance to help, how can we help, let's help. And yeah, it was quite a humbling experience. It's left me as a different person. You know, and another thing that happened that was really powerful to see was this woman walked in, and she had said she walked 20 miles because her entire town was completely destroyed by the water. And she just said, I'll go to Asheville because there's going to be someone can help in Asheville. And so she walked for 2 days, didn't eat, walked 20 miles. And when she told the owner of that story, he just gave her a bunch of free food. So you don't have to pay. But yeah, I guess I left just seeing, I guess, two things, like being grateful for wherever we are, and recognizing how much I was taking for granted, you know, Wi-Fi, electricity, plumbing, the very basics. It's easy to say, oh, I'm grateful for this, I'm grateful for that, but when everything gets taken away, you realize actually what the feeling of gratitude is. And then also just getting to see the power of music too. I think for me, I've played a lot of weddings over the past years, and I can get resentful about it. I can feel like, well, this isn't showcasing my art, or I'm tired of these songs. But then to realize it's like, wow, I have the gift of knowing all the popular wedding songs, and when these people had their wedding taken away from them, I could, for just a half an hour, give them a sense of a normal wedding experience. Yeah, that's it.
Thanks, Danny. Thanks, Danny. Yeah, so let's see if we can tap into some of the gratitude he must have been feeling and still clearly is exuding as we speak together our offertory prayer. Divine love, as me, blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive.
Gratitude before me, gratitude behind me, gratitude to the left of me, gratitude to the right of me, gratitude above me, gratitude below me, gratitude all around me, no, within me, all around me. I'm so grateful, 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 I'm so grateful.
Thank you, Felina. Thank you, Danny. It was beautiful music as always. Thank you so much. And I want to thank our live stream team and all the wonderful work you do every week. Thank you all. Thank you very much. And thank all of you for your presence here today. Has truly blessed us. And if you're watching on Zoom, we want to remind you that you're invited to stay on Zoom after the service ends for a group discussion time. And now I have a few announcements. Our new member class will not be held today. It will be held next Sunday. And going forward, there's going to be a new format, and we'll be announcing more about that as time goes on. Our next quarterly congregational meeting is after service on Sunday, November 3rd. We'll have a potluck after the service for lunch, and then you're invited to stay after for a meeting with our Board of Trustees. Due to technical limitations, the congregational meeting is only available in person. Our annual fundraising gala is right around the corner. On Saturday, November 16th, we'll be dancing the night away at our very own Brazilian Carnival. Tickets are available online at www.unityns.org. This is our big fundraiser for the year, so we encourage everyone to come out and party with us. Now that's it. Please join us now in our closing peace song, and Olga will lead us in our prayer for protection.
Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, a peace that was meant to be, with God as its creator. Family, all are we. Let us walk with each other in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be the moment now. With every step I take, let this be our joyous vow. To take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me.
Prayer for protection. The light of God surrounds us. I am light. The love of God enfolds us. I am love. The power of God protects us. I am power. The presence of God watches over us. I am presence. Wherever we are, God is. I am divine. Have a beautiful day, and I'll be in the back if you would like to pray. Thank you.